Welcome in, everybody. 5 minutes with Sean, maybe 10. We got another sit-down edition, so we're gonna work on keeping these more concise. That's what I'm doing today. I know I tend to get out there with these hour-long episodes, so we're gonna keep it tighter than that now. But I'm excited for today's guest. If you're not aware of who he is, by the time we're done here today, you will. And if you don't already follow him on LinkedIn, which is where I found him, you definitely should. We welcome in today Bill Vaughn, GM Al West Nissan. How are you, man?
Doing good, Sean. Thanks for having me, bud.
Oh, thank you. Really appreciate it. Really enjoy watching you. You're new to my feed, and I really enjoy it. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah,
we like to kick the show off with the origin story, if you will, Bill. So how did you get involved in this wonderful, wonderful business we call the car business?
Yeah, I think it's kind of the standard story, man. Just it wasn't like the plan, It wasn't didn't decide one day, I want to be a car salesperson. But just a unique situation. I sold television advertising at the local TV station, and the dealership was a client of mine, and I was just looking to do something different, and he invited me to come work for him, and I did, and I did that for about a year and a half in sales, as I often say freely, and some people think it's funny, but it's just the truth. Is, man, when I first got in this business, I sucked at it. I'm kind of a logical, process-driven guy, and so it took me a little bit to figure out, like, you just got to talk to people, man. The process stuff's great, but you got to just talk to people, And I went over to a larger dealership that was in town. I've always learned that kind of the bigger the building, the bigger the opportunity. And so I went over there, and I actually took a step back. Went from being a salesperson at the previous dealership to I was literally the lone internet lead guy, the guy that just set up appointments for the salespeople, and that was it, And I just got in at the right time. A store that I think they'd been going for they got bought the store about 2 years before, and so there was a lot of opportunity to advance. I felt like, so it worked out. I mean, I went from being the lone BDC guy to they let me sell some cars, and then they said, "Hey, you want to do finance?" And I was still so new at that point. I didn't even know how awesome of an opportunity finance was, but I'm like, sure, sounds good. And did finance for about a year and a half, and started taking over some sales manager duties, and moved to sales manager, and then moved to GSM within about I think it was about 6 years.
6 years. What a blast off there. Let me go back to something here really quickly that I want to talk about. So you talked about the finance department, right? Great opportunity. I've said freely on this show over the years that I was in finance for 18 months as well, and it was the worst 18 months of my life. I absolutely hated being in a box. I hated being in an office. At that time where I was in Colorado, they started the recording, like, for consumer protection stuff. So, like, we'd have to start a film on CDs, burn CDs. It was like the world's biggest pain in the butt, Bill. But valuable lessons are learned one-on-one in an area where it wasn't like selling a car, right? It was they're already excited. So you're trying to, like, get them excited while also saying, hey, protect your future, right? What was your experience in finance, Bill? What did you think of it?
I didn't have the same, like, that complicated aspect that you had mentioned.
Yeah.
It was pretty smooth, and I worked for an awesome company, Rydell, and they do everything above board,
way above board, like the most incredible group I've ever been in contact with or even seen around my life, and it's a commitment to do things the way they do things. I just want to make that clear to people. Like, you're committed to one price. Dealers think they are. Those people are. Like, I've watched them walk car deals over $500 because they have to, right? That's what they said they would do. So it's pretty wild.
And they mean it. Like, it is not. There's no Kool-Aid. They mean what they say.
Yeah.
And so I mean, I was fortunate to learn the right way to do finance. Right from the very beginning. So for me, it was a great experience, and I tend to thrive in chaos, and got thrown in, and I'll never forget my owner, my mentor. He stopped me one day. He said, "I don't know how you're doing all this with a smile, man. You look like you're having fun." I'm like, this is fun to me. The hard stuff's fun. So
I agree with the chaos and the smiling. I think that's what's always brought me joy in this business is, I grew up in the Chicago car business. It's a very aggressive place. It was hard to start at 18 years old. You talked about being, you said you sucked at it. And what I found was that I sucked at the interpersonal part of being in a dealership. I could
100%.
sell things. I could talk to people, but
Yeah.
I worked more for the customer than I did for the dealership. And so the desk didn't like me. But I moved units and I was able to get things done. But it was in a way where, Bill, my first car deal, you had to bring, I don't know. When did you start, Bill? What was the timing of when you started in the car business?
Oh gosh, I've been in 10 years now, so it'd have been around this time in 2015.
All right. So 2015. So let me ask you, when you started selling cars, did you have to go to your desk with a commitment from the customer?
So the way they did things is basically, yeah, the customer says, "Hey, yeah, I wanna move forward on this thing," and we go to the desk and get a menu. We present the numbers, and yeah, you would, not every deal would you get that hard commitment, but most of the time, and the truth of it is people love best price. Best price makes it's harder, but it's also easier at the same time. I know that's kind of complicated, but so it was easier to get a commitment out of people. I felt like because they felt like you had their best interests in mind, and we did a good job of explaining price. We explained that we were a non-commissioned sales staff, so like, hey, look, whether you buy this, buy that, it makes no difference to me. I just want to help you get in the right car for you.
Yeah. So again, that's the Rydell way. That's the way of the one price. When I started in 1998, 1999, you had to bring commitment to the desk. And commitment meant a check of down payment. It meant whatever. In Chicago, man, I brought watches. I brought a 9-year-old child. I had to bring expensive Jordan shoes. Like, this was some crazy stuff, but it was to show commitment, right? To show the deal. And I'll say this, man, one price, as soon as I ran into it, I thought to myself, this is it. And it was it from a way that consumers, some of them like negotiating. So they can go find someone who negotiates, right? But to be in the one price setup and to watch it happen was pretty crazy. I could never work in the environment because of the word you just mentioned, which is the non-commission. I've been a commission kid my whole life. As a matter of fact, my worst job was a corporate job that I had that was all the same. It was on a salary bill. It was just like you worked hard, you were at 110% of your objective, but they hand you the same paycheck. And I think that's why I always saw a lot of value in the car business. Today, are you still part of the Rydell Group? Is that who you guys work for, or do you do one price? What's Bill's current approach at his store?
Yeah, so no, I'm no longer with Rydell. I just decided I was looking for a little bit more of a challenge, because they had that store running like a top, as Rydell does. My previous owner, he's fantastic, one of the best car people, one of the best people, and they had that store running like a top, and I was looking for a new challenge, and this opportunity popped up, not too far away from home. I'm 3 hours away from home, but it's not like I had to go to a different state. I still head home for on Saturday. I get to spend a day back home. So it was an opportunity to become a GM somewhere, but not have to leave the state.
So you are a GM now, and I know that you and I have talked about this a little bit leading up to our conversation today. But you've taken a fairly unique approach in taking over this store. Why don't you just give folks a little bit of kind of background into what you're currently doing, and if you can give us a little bit of a time frame as far as when you started your project, where you are today, just a brief overview, I think would help folks understand it, because I love it, and it takes a lot of guts to do what you're doing, but the way you explain it, to me, it sort of removed the idea that it was that big of a deal just because you'd seen the store at the point it was at. So why don't you go ahead and give us a little background on that?
Yeah, so I had actually talked to the executive manager at this store a few years ago, Ironically, my auto trader, we had the same auto trader rep, and they connected us. That she had some questions about Viato at the time, and I kind of gave them some direction on Viato, and we developed a good relationship there. COVID happened, things got crazy, we both got busy, and then about a year ago we reconnected again, and they were going through some changes at the dealership. So it always comes down to people, right? And I feel like some people maybe let them down a little bit because they're fantastic people. Lon, the owner, loves people, loves his people. Anna's smart as a whip. I mean, she's just smart as can be, but I think that the people kind of let them down, and so they had a lot of changes there. So I kind of jumped in and was kind of, maybe you would call it consulting on the side, kind of watching things from afar, helping with, whatever they needed from time to time. And then everything kind of fell apart, and they had some major personnel changes that they had to make. But they, in my opinion, they did the right thing, and said, we got to change, we got to do something different. This isn't working. And so then she really started leaning on me pretty heavily, because she had some lack of experience in the store, and that needed some guidance. So I kind of started helping them with that. And then I kind of, like I said, I decided that I was going to look for something different, and kind of put it out. I let my owner know, because again, I have a lot of respect for him. I let him know that I was looking. I did not want to be looking behind his back. So I let him know. We had a good enough relationship, good enough trust, that he didn't run me out of the store.
I was gonna say, man, like in my experience, that conversation ends with, "That sounds great, man. You can just leave here, pack your box, and get out of here."
Yeah.
So that is, again, it speaks to who you worked for and who you chose to work with, right? So I don't think we can overstate that enough in this conversation. That in this industry, when you work with good people, stay with good people. You know what I'm saying? And that's when I had my falling out with my buddy and now client. It was tough because we both cared so much. We were too young. We were too, pig-headed at the time. And now, as I just saw him for the first time in a decade here a couple of weeks ago, and we had like a mid-40s man therapy session. We all just sat around kind of talking about, why it happened before, why it won't happen again, and how they changed the trajectory of their organization based on our fallout, and how they didn't want to have that happen. They didn't want it to be. And now, as I go through Colorado, I hear them to be the place to work. Everyone wants to be there. So you're just like, okay, like that's a serious change of perception. So it's very important. And I love what you're saying, man, about being upfront with people. I wish the industry could experience more of that. I just think there's an inherent fear that they would walk in, say that as being upfront, and then would be out of a job.
Yeah, and listen, the deal is that it doesn't happen in that moment. It's the years before that, the trust that's built up before that. One of the things I told Caden, that was the son, is Dad never had a reason not to trust me. If I made a mistake, if I missed something, if it was always, he knew he was always going to get the truth from me, and he knew that I had the best interest of the business at heart. We always say treat it like it's yours. That you can only do that so much. Of course, I don't care what somebody says. You can only do it so much. But he knew that I had the best interest at heart, and so that's why he trusted me. I was there for about a month before moving down here, just kind of getting everything transitioned, teaching, giving Caden some direction on kind of the final touches. And he was, like I said, he was so far advanced that it was not a huge,
right, yeah, not a big delta for him to get there. So you get your first GM job, and it sounds like you decide to, at least from a marketing advertiserial standpoint, you decide to tear this babe down to the studs, if I have that correct. Why don't you walk us through a little bit of that process?
Yeah, and it helped again that there was good ownership in place of people that did believe in doing business the right way. Like for instance, they like the Rydell stores, when during COVID they never charged over MSRP.
Yeah.
And so it helped that right from the start, they always believed in doing business the right way. But we just kind of took the transparency and kind of kicked that up a notch. We're not necessarily best price now. With Nissan, we've got cars priced in the dirt. We got cars priced about as low as Nissan will let us sell them. We do follow the Nissan's MAP guidelines. We never want to give Nissan any reason to mistrust us, so we don't play any of the gamemanship. We do it straight up. But we put the price tags right in the window on all the cars, both new and pre-owned. There's no question about the price of the vehicle. It shows the doc fee on the tag. So we try to make it as straight up as possible. When you contact the store, we changed to what happened when you contacted the store. And in most dealerships, and I think we're getting better as an industry in a lot of cases. But most of the time when you reached out to a dealership online, what's the first thing they say? When can you be here?
Yeah, except I did not. Bill, I did not. I got a lot of crap for that back in the early 2000s when my owner came to me. He's like, "Look, we need to sell cars to the mountains. How are we going to do it?" He said, "No one wants to come down here." I said, "Cool, then don't let them come down here. Let's just negotiate over the phone, bring them signed paperwork, and let's go." I mean, it's a Subaru. Who cares? And he was like, "We can do that." I said, "Why can't we do that?" And we expanded the business immediately. Again, when people talk about home delivery, folks, 2004, 2005, home delivery. This is not a new concept. It's a matter of comfortability, right? It's a matter of being able to get whoever is above you, and especially your finance department. A good friend of mine was our finance manager at the time. We're still friends 20 years later. And I just saw him when I was there. And he said, "Dude, I hated your guts for that. I really did." He's like, "You bring me 50 car deals a month with nothing in them. With no chance. I got to have paperwork. You make me put all the things on there to have them sign." I'm like, "Yeah, but we moved that dealership, and now they're one of the top, I think, 3 Subaru dealerships in the state." And so it's not about that, Bill. I like that you say that, man, that you're not going to press people like that out of the gate. You just want to start talking to people, as you said in the beginning of the show.
Yeah, first thing, our first goal is, do we have the right car for you? Like, that's our first target. Like, first thing we do is start identifying whether we're on the right car for the guest or not. Because if we're not, full stop. Let's see if we have the right car for them. And I think the online customers appreciate that. And I'll tell you this, and this is, I'm going to ruffle some feathers with this one. Okay. So there's a crazy thing that I think happens with the online guests. When it's still true to this day that the buying a car is an emotional purchase. That is still very true. But I'm telling you, the online customer is a little bit different. They make their decisions just a little bit more based on logic than the customer who is in the store does, because they can escape you at any moment. There's not that you're not sitting right in front of them. They can just stop texting you. They can block your number. They can, block your email, all those things. So they can escape you at any moment. So the pressure is off of them just a little bit. And since that pressure is off of them a little bit, they evaluate the conversation more. And I think when they see somebody who they can feel like they can trust online, the wall really comes down. And they just start thinking about the deal based on whether the numbers make sense for them. The number of deals that when you first demonstrate trust by establishing just, are we on the right car or not, and you help guide them through that, and then you just start with online customers, we don't wait for them to ask us for the trade appraisal. We don't wait for them to ask for payments. We bring it up first. Okay, we're on the right car. Do you feel like the price is fair? Do you have a trade-in? Let's go over the trade-in. Got the trade-in number. Okay, let's look at the menu. We go over the whole thing. We don't have a digital retail tool, but we do. It's literally you just go over the numbers with the customer online, and when they see your willingness to do that, the barriers fall, and it just becomes about, is this the right car for me, and is this the right deal for me? And you'd be amazed at the amount of car deals that are agreed to in 45 minutes to an hour.
Yeah, no, Bill. I mean, again, you're helping me validate 20 years of work here, right? Like this is what we were doing 20 years ago, and it's the same exact thing. Hearing you talk is like listening to me try and convince people of the same thing 20 years ago. That like, guys, look, I'm telling you, if you just listen to these people, if you just let them do this, this is before text messaging. I mean, Bill, they used to have to send us pictures of their trade-in. People were so bad with uploading photos, we'd get like 40-minute downloads of a rim. Dude, right? These gigantic pictures like this. I sound so old saying this, but like these people had dial-up internet in the mountains, and we were still able to say, look, we know you don't want to be inconvenienced to come down here. It's okay. We'll come to you. And they were willing to pay a premium. It really wasn't about price when you listened and you did what was required and you worked on their time frame. But I had to hear so often, man, like you work for the customer. Like, yeah. No, you're right. 110%. I work for the customer. Sorry. That's how I'm going to get the next customer and the customer after that. Right. And once you start selling cars to mountain people, guess what they do? They tell everybody in the mountains. Right, so now I'm not even paying acquisition costs of advertising when people are just calling direct saying, Sally bought her car from you. I want mine delivered too. And it was like a game of telephone, man.
And the way people, the way people buy cars, they go to Google, I start identifying, okay, where do I want to buy a car from? What car do I want to buy? Maybe who do I want to buy a car from? And they go look at reviews. And when they look at the reviews, they start searching through the reviews for keywords like remote, let me sign, delivered to me, whatever. And when they see every single one of those reviews is positive, they have the trust to say, let's do it.
It's how I look for restaurants, man. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm looking for good service, great food, great food. If I see keywords like waited an hour, this place sucks. It's like, cool, I'm moving on. And I look for recency. I'm someone who can understand changes happen, right? So if someone's killing recent reviews but struggled early on, maybe they're better, right? We can be respectful of that. Bill, let's talk about the ad side of things. So you had an ad budget, now you don't.
Yeah, I got rid of everything. Everything. The only thing I haven't gotten rid of is car gurus, only because they wouldn't let me out of my contract, and I understand why they didn't in this case. But I mean, I have a CRM, I have an appraisal and IMS, I have DMS, and I have car gurus, and that's it. We eliminated everything.
So have you noticed an uptick in organic traffic to your website? Like, have you noticed like conversion quality? What have you noticed about on-site behavior with your website with not paying to drive anyone to it?
Yeah, it's definitely, I do, like I said, I do have car gurus, and still, and I can see, like, for instance, I saw a customer yesterday who came over from car gurus to the website. They sent in a website lead, so of course that's going to get counted as a website lead, right? But those customers are going to find you one way or another, especially if you have the right car for them, you have the right reputation, all of those things. And to be clear, I didn't necessarily cancel all those advertisers because I don't feel like they're good. Like, there's value in everything, especially when you do things the right way. The reason I canceled everything is I wanted to know, what does Al West Nissan look like on its own? How many cars can we sell? What kind of volume do we do? What does it look like when we don't do anything? That way, when I do add that stuff later, I can actually measure the effectiveness of it, if it moves the needle or not. So,
what's changed?
I'm sorry?
What's changed with regards to units? Like, so you've come on board versus what you were doing previously. Have you seen any appreciable difference in change besides slashing your budget?
Yeah, so our volume has not dramatically increased. But the way I say it is that you got to think about it from the perspective of, our volume hasn't increased dramatically, but we've cut a ton of costs. And you would think that if you got rid of all that stuff, it would actually lower the volume.
That's correct. That's right. That's what I'm thinking. So if you're breaking even or even slightly higher, this is a success story as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and it is slightly higher, and it's I feel like we're starting to catch some momentum now. But I want to be clear again. It's not as simple as we shut everything off and our volume didn't drop. We've also worked very hard to get our merchandising right. Good photographs, good detail, good descriptions, tagging the photos. Hey, this is what this is. I'm trying to show you that this car has leather seats. where I put the photos, all of
And
those
good
things.
sales process along with that, I assume, is the other part that you really dug into to have the support system. And it sounds like, again, I love the approach, right? It sounds like let's tear it down to the studs. Let's get our processes dialed in. So when I can put volume back on everyone knows what we're doing and everyone's ready to run at volume, as opposed to just pushing you with volume and hoping I get out what I need.
Yeah, I want to make sure that I'm getting those good reviews. That as we grow, that people are having a good experience. So that I think that will help continue to drive us. If you get busy, like if I went the other way and I spent a crap load of money on marketing, but my people weren't ready, I'm getting these customers, they're getting a bad experience. We still keep spinning our wheels here,
Yeah. Bill, we just had a discussion. A local Mexican restaurant decided to make their opening day on Cinco de Mayo. And mentally, I get why you would do that, right? You can bring the traffic, you can do all that. The problem is they were in no way suited to do so. And it was an absolute fail from the local perspective because no one got their food. The waits were ridiculous. So, like, the idea of getting people ready is a much better approach than assuming that they'll be prepared when the volume does hit them.
Right. Yep. Yeah. And that's what we wanted. We wanted to make sure when a customer reached out, they got the experience they expected. I think we've done a good job of that. And, you mentioned, again, to be clear, this place, I truly believe they've done a great job in the community. They've never taken advantage of customers. So their reviews have still been good, but we're really starting to get, just like you said, all of the reviews are good now. And I really focused on that because what I said is that to continue to win this market over, we're taking care of everything. Just take care of it. We sold a car. There's a chip in the windshield. Fix it.
Fix
right?
it.
We sold a guest a car, and 2 weeks later the motor went out on it. We took the car back.
I mean, look, again, if you're going to be in a small community, a rural community, as you put it, you have to do the right thing, right? You have to. And if you do it, you'll be able to expand into that and around that, right? You'll be able to take your core area and then you'll be able to slowly expand it, right, on the long game to see how that works. Bill, I love what we're doing here, man. I really do. I want to switch gears real fast because you've been gracious with your time. And I know you're busy. I want to take us, we've been talking about the work journey, but I want to talk a little bit about the personal journey that Bill Vaughn himself has been on.
Yeah.
I know it's been a pretty long journey for you. A lot of things have changed. Again, why don't you just give us a quick background on sort of that personal health journey, if you will?
Yeah, I tell the story of, it kind of started. So my previous owner, we needed a big year. We needed a big year. My last year there, we needed a big year, and I literally said, I had a conversation with my wife, babe, love you, but I'm going full board into this for the next year because we wanted that big year to close things out, and so I dedicated myself to the store. More than I ever had before. I felt like I was already giving 110%. I kicked her up to 130%. But I knew something was slowing me down, and I was watching the Car Dealership Guy podcast, and Brian Benstock was on there, and he said, "What does 100% of you look like? Does anybody know what 100% of you look like?" And I thought, and it hit me, and I'm like, I'm giving it everything I got, but is this really everything I got? Am I at my peak, both mentally, physically, spiritually, all of those things? And I was kind of tiptoeing in at first, and then went full board into reshaping my entire self. I went from I weighed about 220 pounds. I wasn't drastically overweight by any means, but shredded 50 pounds, and while also gaining some muscle mass. So I probably lost 70 pounds of fat, and that helped me get my body right, which then helped me get my mind right. And when you're peak energy, you get peak results out of your mind. and so I went full board into finding out what does 100% of me look like. And I tell you, the most interesting thing, and this is the first that anybody's heard this, so on your podcast, first anybody's heard me say this, but I think it's important, is the most amazing thing is that you find out as you get close to what 100% looks like. Just when you're about there, you find out that it's the new 80%. There's more there,
Yeah.
and so it's been a phenomenal experience. And I couldn't have done what I'm doing here. I'm working 12, 13 hours a day. My family's like I said, 3 hours away, so I have nothing else to do but work and work out. So I wake up at 4:30 in the morning. I start working out. I go to work. I work from 8 to 8:30. I get home, I work out, I go to bed, start over again.
I mean, look, dude, I get that. I was in a similar situation, working away from the family and going down that road. And, weight loss, not really some part of mine. Mine is more the mental journey, and really going through that part of it. What was that like for you, man? Did you notice yourself sort of going through and looking at yourself from a different lens on the mental health side as you went through and dealt with? You mentioned your mind. Was there more clarity that had happened throughout that with that part of the journey?
Yeah, it's hard to explain really, but like I think you just again, we're talking about that, like butting up against the 100%, right? When you start getting close to that 100% number, I think you start then questioning yourself if you can get that final yard, and then it all resets, and you're like, wait, I haven't even I pushed through this wall and found out that there's another one on the other side. And but it's just accepting that truth. But it's just it's given me so much more energy. And I'm be honest, I'm better to people because I have a more clear mind, better energy. So it's helped me. It's given me a lot of clarity.
Well, I love that, man. I love that. We were talking that that kindness is clarity, clarity is kindness, right? Having that idea, being able to be in that space is something that says, that you're doing a job. And I'm someone now, I'm really working on my own mental health, and I dig in a lot, and I take a couple different avenues to go down that road to work on it. And, talking with one of my friends, she was basically like, look, it's good. It's a constant journey. It's not like it ends. There is no end point here. And that's what reminds me when you talk about the 100%. I like to say all the time, like, I'm obviously pretty crazy about the way I approach things. And my wife, she always says that, my 100% is other people's 120. And I've always said that, like, my 100%, I don't even think that's it yet. I still think that I could do even more, and press the envelope and try to be an even better person. So I'm taking that a little differently. I used to put it into work. Now I'm putting it into myself, and really working on myself for that. So I love what you've done here, Bill. On the way out, Bill, as a guy who's been in this industry now, you said for 10 plus years, what advice do you have to folks who are just getting started in our great business about what it takes to stay in it and be successful long term?
Yeah, I think this is a story as old as time, honestly, is that you have to push through. You have to push through, especially, we always say those first 2 years. If you can get through those first 2 years, there is light on the other side. But again, there's a funny thing about this business. I see it all the time when new people come in. The business challenges them. New people come in and they literally get all the most random stuff thrown at them. Like when they first start, it's the most amazing thing. But they get hit with the most random stuff, and you have to push through that first little bit. But the car business is a life-changing business. There is no business in the world that will let you take your life and completely change it. It can change your life if you give into it, I guess, if you will.
Yeah.
There's a reason why people don't get out. There's a reason why, and it ain't the money.
No.
It ain't the money. Yeah, the money can be great. Don't get me wrong, but
Sure.
And the more you give to it, the more it'll give back. But there's just something to to this business and the people in it, helping people make a big purchase, and yeah, it's a life-changing business. I don't know. I'm not that smart. I'm not that bright. I'm not, and it's provided a great life for me because I've just given it everything I've got. So
there's no biz like the car biz, and again, if you want to work at something, there's nothing more rewarding. Recently, my 19-year-old nephew asked me what he could do without a college degree to make more money, enjoy his life. He likes to tinker with cars. I said, "You ever thought about being a mechanic?" He said, "Yeah, but where would I start?" I said, "Well, let's see if we can get you an apprenticeship at my buddy's dealership." 72 hours later, kid's, taking background checks. Now he's 3 months into the car business, on his way to an apprenticeship at 19 to be a mechanic. And probably by the time he's 25, easily making six figures. And, up until that conversation, up until he took that chance to even ask me about it, and of course, the first thing I say to people, what should I do? Well, you like selling something? Yeah, get in the car business. I don't know what else to tell you. Like, it's been successful for me. So, Bill, man, thank you so much for sharing your journey with us. It's been incredible. You are a great follow and seemingly an even better human being. So thank you so much for everything you do for the car business and your team as a whole.
It's always great talking with you, Sean. I appreciate it.
You're welcome, and thanks a lot, folks. We appreciate you joining us. As always, we'll see you again next week on the show. I'll likely be back in the chair solo, but you never know. We'll see what happens. We'll talk to you soon. Have yourselves a great week.
See ya.